Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. Today I'm going to be talking about the week 21 matches for the Overwatch League Countdown Cup. This is obviously the first week for the Countdown Cup and the very start of it, and also going to be the last qualifier slash tournament for the regular season before the playoffs, which will start I think in October to November, if I remember correctly. So it's still a pretty long season. And obviously it'll be at the Arlington Esports Center. I think that's what's it called. Stadium Center. I think that's what's it called. I think it's where they play the some of the Overwatch World Cup matches. But and also the playoffs will have both the West and East teams be competing against each other on LAN. So I think this is for the first time since season 2, season 3 probably, that East and West teams will be competing against each other on LAN. Because obviously originally it was the West teams that were having it on LAN, and the East teams will be having it online. And if they want to do it together, they have to do it on LAN. Wait, on LAN? No, they have to do it online. So ultimately the West teams have to go to Hawaii, and then the East teams have to stay in wherever they're based off, like in China or Korea. So I'm very excited about that, and I will be making a Teams List video about it. So I haven't completely given up on Overwatch content yet, but maybe soon. But as of right now, I have not given up on it, which is a good thing for people who enjoy Overwatch League. So let's move over to the matches of week 21, and there's been quite a few interesting stuff, we'll say the least. So first up, Boston Uprising versus the Houston Outlaws. You cannot see the score. There you go. It was a 3-1 victory for the Boston Uprising against the Outlaws. Valentine getting the MVP. Outlaws did look a bit shaky there, but the Uprising, they look way better now, which is a great sign. The Dallas Fuel versus the Washington Justice. I'm not even surprised that the Dallas Fuel won. The Justice have definitely improved, I'll say, from the beginning of the season to now. Edison getting MVP, and I think also the Justice have also locked themselves into the playoffs, if I remember correctly, but I might be wrong with that. 3-1 victory, once again, for the Dallas Fuel against the Justice. Edison getting MVP. Next up, a 3-2 victory for the Atlanta Reign against the Toronto Defiant, and I was surprised how close this was. I generally thought it was going to be the Toronto Defiant maybe having a 3-1 victory against the Reign, but I mean, Vigilant getting MVP. I think he played like before this, so it's all good. But still a great sign for the Reign. I mean, it was a bit shaky there. Obviously the Toronto Defiant are very, very good, so no surprises there. But great sign obviously for both of these teams. So we move over to the East region, and we have the Hangzhou Spark versus the Chengdu Hunters. A 3-1 victory for the Chengdu Hunters against the Spark. We do have to talk about the Spark again, especially during the roster changes between the Summer Showdown and the Countdown Cup, because they made some pretty big changes, especially to their support lineup, and I guess also a bit of the coaching stuff as well, but mainly the support lineup has been changed. As of right now, it doesn't look too good for them, but we'll see how that goes. A very easy 3-0 victory for the Seoul Dynasty against the LA Valiant. Smurf getting MVP. I don't know what else to really say about that. Valiant, I mean, they're decent, but not really the best, obviously. But the Dynasty are a very, very tough opponent, and they're currently actually first in the East standings. So, I mean, I'm not surprised as a 3-0 victory for the Seoul Dynasty against the LA Valiant. So I move over to the West region, and we got the Battle of Europe, the London Spitfire versus the Paris Eternal. It was a 3-1 victory for the London Spitfire against the Paris Eternal. No surprise there either as well. Can't get an MVP. I don't know what else to say, really. Just the Paris Eternal have just been horrible. They've been so bad this season. And it's kind of ironic that the only good season was, I think, season 2, if I remember correctly. That was it. That was all. Yeah, I mean, the Eternal have been absolutely dog shit. The Spitfire have been exceptionally amazing. So, good job for the Spitfire. Eternal probably needs some more work. Next up, we got the Florida Mayhem versus the LA Gladiators. We'll be also mentioning the Gladiators once again later about the roster changes. Because they got hit with 2 pretty hard ones. Even though I think I did talk about one of them, which is, spoiler, I guess, Arns leaving the team. have a massive one coming again from the Gladiators for the DPS position about a very well-known player retiring for the second time. But should get MVP against Florida Mayhem. No surprises there. A pretty massive surprise is the reverse sweep for the NYXL against the Toronto Defiant. Now, I don't know if the Defiant was just caught off guard by what the NYXL was doing, but this is surprising to me. The NYXL have not been good at all during this whole season, and I'm surprised that he actually won against a midfield team, that being the Toronto Defiant. A 3-2 victory for them. I mean, I don't know what the Defiant was doing, but the NYXL figured something out, and they brought it back into their own hands and winning it. Flora again MVP, so congratulations to the NYXL. It's happening again, folks. The Shanghai Dragons, are they sandbagging? Once again, like they did last season. Most likely, probably, I think they might be. I'm not too sure. But, I mean, worked for them last season, so it might maybe work for them again this season. I'm not too sure, though. But Seoul Dynasty, a 3-0 victory for the for Seoul Dynasty against the Shanghai Dragons. Prof again MVP. I don't know what else to say, really. Like, I don't know if they were putting subs in or anything. I actually can't remember what their roster looks. I don't know if they even have any subs, actually. I know who IU is still in it, but other than that, I have no clue who else is in it. I'm just having a look at my notes. I mean, I don't know what they could be doing. I mean, they could maybe try some different strats. Maybe they're like sitting out say Izayaki for Baby Bay, which I think is still in the team, and I'm still questioning on that. And I think they're still I don't know who's the main tank player. I think it might be Fade if I remember correctly. I'm not too sure, but I think they could be just switching play type for the tanks and the flexible players, and even the DPS players as well with who are you in it as well. So, but obviously you'll see what happens there for the Shanghai Dragons in the postseason for the playoffs. A very, very close game for the Chengdu Hunters against the Guangzhou Charge. And the Guangzhou Charge have also made made some changes as well to their roster. The Chengdu Hunters, however, still prevailing. A 3-2 victory for the Chengdu Hunters against the Charge. A 3-2 victory, and Monk gained MVP. So, I mean, we actually have to talk about the Charge again for, something a little big that you see in your corner of your screen. But I mean, this is kind of what I expected from the Charge. Like close games, pretty competitive, but they're kind of choking at the very end. This one I am very surprised about. The Philadelphia Fusion losing to the LA Valiant a 3-2 fashion, and Ezhan again MVP. I don't know what the Fusion was doing here, I'll be honest. The Valiant have been, obviously they've been the worst team in the East region, but they've actually made this very, very competitive. I don't know what the hell the Valiant is like. I don't know what the Fusion was doing here in this game. No idea if they were like trying something new, trying different strat, trying different roster, new characters. I'm not too sure. Obviously with what's her name? Kiriko? I don't know how you say her name. I apologize. I think it might be Kiriko. Might be wrong. Obviously, she's going to be in the lineup, I think, in the playoffs, if I remember correctly. So that might be interesting how the teams utilize her into the meta, if she's actually meta or not. We'll see. But Valiant have been looking pretty good as a MVP. Good job by the Valiant. A 3-1 victory for the London Spitfire against the Vancouver Titans. I'm not surprised about this at all. The Vancouver Titans have been the weakest team. Obviously, they did have that shine last tournament in the Summer Showdown, if I remember correctly. Was it Summer Showdown? I think so, it was. Other than that, I don't see anything else from the Titans. I think there might still some wins here and there. I don't think they're going to make like a massive comeback out of nowhere and just make it to the Countdown Cup tournament. I don't think that's going to happen. If it does, I will eat my own shoe. But the London Spitfire, Backbone, getting MVP. Congratulations to the Spitfire. This one also surprised me, but not as much. The San Francisco Shock against the Washington Justice. The Justice have been looking really, really good in this tournament, so I'm not surprised there. The Shock have a losing to the Justice is a tiny bit surprising, but I mean, like the fashion, that being a very close game, a 3-2 victory for the Justice. I mean, it could go either way. I mean, the Justice, just like I said, have been looking really good. They obviously sold some of their plays to two different teams. For example, Vigilant to Lent Terrain, Happy to the LA Gladiators, which I already talked about earlier. And now they have found themselves a very good roster, which they can build around. Magos left, I can't remember where he went to. Boston Uprising, there we go. So obviously now they have a really, really good roster, which they can build off on and succeed in possibility, because they've been looking really good here. Leo's getting MVP. Don't know what the Shock has been doing. Probably struggling a bit. Maybe just saving some of them good players. I don't know. But ultimately, we'll have to wait to see on that. The Boston Uprising, an easy 3-0 victory for the Uprising against the Florida Mayhem. Punk getting MVP. I mean, I guess like the meme that being, if you don't have Punk, you will lose. Don't bench Punk. If you bench Punk, you're automatically going to lose. That's essentially how that's going to work. But either way, no surprises there, I don't think, for the Uprising against the Mayhem. We need to talk about this because this kind of solidifies it that they might be sandbagging. Probably not. They might be just... Obviously, most of these players will probably be burnt out like they did last season. I don't know what else to really say, though. But the Guangzhou Charge, a 3-2 victory against the Shanghai Dragons. Choice Day 1 gain MVP. I guess also with a new player that they added, which is actually a good sign for them. They also had a new coach as well. Dragons have been struggling a bit. We'll see if they continue to struggle next week and the week after that. We'll see though, but I'm not fully convinced that they're actually that they are sandbagging. I mean, even though it does look like it, I'm not fully convinced yet. Even though I think I did say, but we said they probably are sandbagging. But either way, I mean, they should not be losing to the Charge, especially with a very weak team that the Charge has. No disrespect to them. The Dragons have been struggling a bit, so it's kind of giving me memories of last season, season 4, where they just kind of didn't really do much that season, and then they just fucking like popped off in the playoffs. So we'll see if that actually does happen again, though. And then the Philadelphia Fusion versus the Hangzhou Spark. Fury gained MVP, which means that the Fusion won against the Spark. The Spark changes have not been looking too good. I don't know. I mean, the supports weren't that bad as I remember. I don't think they were really the big issue. In terms of fine, DPS was fine. Maybe I think the sports were probably the issue, but I mean, they added a former player who was a coach and a former DPS player who transitioned to a coach. So let me rephrase that. A former DPS player who transitioned to a support role. There we go. That's what I meant to say. So I can definitely understand why they're struggling to lean a tiny bit, but I mean, not a great result for them at all. Let's just go through all these ones, because these ones, I mean, 3 of these aren't that surprising. Lantern Rain versus NYX, no surprise, a 3-0 victory for the Lantern Rain. Venom gained MVP. Power Storm versus the Dallas Fuel. Dallas Fuel gained the win. Chayo gained MVP. This one surprised me a lot. The Houston Outlaws just punched back after the SF Shock. I mean, I was surprised by this because the Outlaws, they are obviously a top 5 team, obviously, but the Shock obviously the best one. The Outlaws, as what I've been saying from this week, have been up and down. Obviously, they lost the Uprising of all freaking teams, and then they went against the Shock of all teams. Wouldn't it be better if you, like, whatever. But it didn't really make sense to me, I'll be honest. But, I mean, Tank Diff, I guess, Dante gained MVP, so I guess the Shock got tank diffed by the Houston Outlaws, because I saw in Dante's tweet that he said tank diff, so I guess it was a bit of a tank diff there for the Shock. And finally, a 3-0 victory for the LA Gladiators against the Vancouver Titans. No surprise there, Kev's to get an MVP. So move over to next week. So look, maybe some good matches. Spitfire versus Gladiators. That's always a banger match. That's obviously a rivalry as well, a little cheeky rivalry there. We'll see, probably the Dragons matches. Fusion and a Spark, that might be good. It might be interesting to see if they actually are sandbagging or they're actually struggling a lot. Other ones, Shock and Rain, maybe Shock and Toronto, because I mean, it'd be interesting to see how Shock plays against those two teams, and obviously if they continue to struggle, does that mean something for the playoffs? Dallas versus Spitfire, that might be pretty good. And what's another one I could probably throw out there? Justice versus Rain. We'll say that one. Let's now move over to the standings, and some stuff has changed. Shock and Fuel, both at 23 points, both at the same record, but Schalke is obviously is in the lead because of the map differential. So you got Schalke, Fuel, then the LA Gladiators, 21 points, Outlaws, Spitfire, and Rain. Then Toronto, Florida Mayhem, Washington Justice. Those teams have been locked in basically into the playoffs. There's only now one spot remaining, which either can go to the Boston Uprising or the New York Excelsior. So I guess also the Boston Uprising and the NYXL matches I might be interested to watch. The Titans and the Eternal, they basically have no chance unless they can make it through like maybe like the LCQ, Last Chance Qualifiers, I guess, for the playoffs. I actually don't know if there's actually going to be any for that, but probably not. I don't think there is. I think it obviously depends also for the Countdown Cup. Now that we move over to the East standings, the Seoul Dynasty is currently 2 points in front of the Shanghai Dragons. Then we got the Philadelphia Fusion and the Hangzhou Spark. Those two teams have locked themselves into the playoffs, so hopefully they may be eliminated. But the Chengdu Hunters, Guangzhou Charge, and the LA Valiant, all those three teams still have a chance of making it to the playoffs. And obviously with Charge's decent looking results, Hunters kind of struggling, maybe mid-pack, Valiant also now mid-pack, that's probably gonna be a really good thing to look at, especially a good storyline to look at, especially as we head on, as we keep going to the Countdown Cup. For the roster changes, there's been a few roster changes between the Countdown Cup and the Summer Showdown. The first one is No Hill. He has left the LA Valiant as the head coach, so No Hill is gone, sadly. And this is what I mean about the Hangzhou Spark changes. They've got a Neko as now a player, he's obviously a flex support player, and Teru, formerly a DPS player for the Vancouver Titans, has now transitioned to a support role. I actually don't know what he plays, which I'm very interested in looking at. He plays flex support. So Teru is a flex support player. And I think Neko is going to be Neko's also flex support though, is he? Yeah, he's also flex support. So I don't know what the reason behind this is. I generally have no clue, because I guess it might be like another like flex support another flex support meta, maybe, possibility. But obviously, by the two matches that we've seen, that hasn't looked too good. The Guangzhou Charger, they've been looking pretty decent now, as they won against the Shanghai Dragons. And who else did they win against? No, never mind. They lost against the Chengdu Hunters, but they won against the Shanghai Dragons. So, pretty decent result for the Charge. Ty Dollar, I think, has returned to the Guangzhou Charge, if I remember correctly. I think he was with the Charge. I think it's season 2, season 3. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it's season 3. I swear. So he was part of the Guangzhou Charge since actually the very beginning, and now he's returned back to the Charge. And Piggy, formerly the Houston Outlaws tank player, has now become a Guangzhou Charge player, which is a pretty good. It's actually a great home for him, because obviously now he gets to now play closer to his home, which is good. And then finally, the LA Gladiators, Patty Fan, or Patty Pan, I don't know how you say his name, so I think it's Patty Pan. He has retired from professional Overwatch. Once again, easy going to Valorant because of all the franchising stuff. Maybe, possibility. I'm not too sure. But I don't think there's any tie teams, if I remember correctly, as last time I looked over there. But I mean, he could maybe go with 2 of the VCT teams. Obviously, if you're interested in Valorant, you can have a look at all the franchising teams. So you can get an idea of who's in it and who might be in it. I'm not too sure. You can make obviously your own mind about that, your own little rumors, your own little theories or rosters of who you think is going to be in those teams. But it's kind of a Chad move, actually. Going back to Overwatch, basically winning 2 tournaments, retiring again, not saying anything else further. No, doesn't want to elaborate. Chad move, obviously, by Patty Pan. So hopefully he does return back to esports. He was also suffering with an injury, which probably makes more sense why he retired. I think it was a wrist injury, if I remember correctly. But hopefully we get to see him back in esports very, very soon. But that's really about it for me. Obviously, just reminded that we got week 22 matches, and these are obviously the matches here for week 22. So that's really about it for me. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Catch you guys on next time in the next one. Goodbye.